evening, November Foxtrot. Hello.
How is everyone?
Hello, Kenny.
I'm on the wonk.
Sign Chewbacca. John McLaughlin.
Well, I don't know what.
Forgot my username. I still love that
On the
one.
wonk.
Nick Pratt, Matthew McCarthy, Rage.
Having a wonk.
Hi. Welcome in.
How is
Evening,
everyone?
all.
Tony.
Yeah,
Hatcher
man.
for the win. I can't.
Red t-shirt guys in the house,
Blah,
yo.
blah, blah. Hi, Terry. Welcome in. We are going to be discussing MilSim Roles tonight. Specialist MilSim Roles.
Yes.
This is very exciting.
Mm.
Before that, how are you both doing?
Properly late tonight as well. No, we're not Rage. What you? Your watch is fast, man.
Yeah, I think everyone's watches are wrong. We're dead on time.
We arrive precisely when we mean to. Ask Gandalf. He knows.
Gandalf.
We're always fashionably late for our own podcast. Hi, Will.
Not bacon rolls.
Yeah, how are you
Kenny.
doing?
Yeah, good, mate. You?
Yes, not too bad.
Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. Good session at the gym. Nice to be back down there again. Down the Iron Church.
And obviously representing the old red t-shirt guy tonight.
Red t-shirt guy. Yeah. Go get him, Tigers.
Go get them, Tigers. Rawr.
Oh, right, should we roll into the news?
Yeah.
On that note.
I take my gun and I go pew 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 pew.
News.
It's getting better.
Yeah, getting better. Bit of news. This week we are. I say we are. The 13th Airsoft Player Choice Awards from Popular Airsoft will be streaming on the 15th, which I believe is Saturday. That'll be streaming at 1100 hours BST. I don't know what time that is, Greenwich Mean Time. Feel free to go check that out. I
Is
don't
that BST? Is that
anything...
basically standard time?
Standard time. This is true time.
It's just
It could be
standard
Swiss,
time.
basically Swiss time. Basic
Basically
Swiss time.
Swiss.
Swiss time, I think
This
they're
is
like an
Swiss
hour
time.
in front of us, aren't they? Or something stupid, like 2 hours.
BST actually stands for British Summertime. So it'll be
Oh.
1100 hours our time. So there you go.
So 11 in the morning on Saturday.
11 in the morning, yes.
That's very random.
But I think, to be fair, it's not streamed potentially from the UK. I think that's probably
Right.
advertising.
I think it's an
that
American
gonna be-
thing, isn't it?
Yeah, bloody Americans again.
Not sure. I don't know actually. I wasn't sure if it was Middle East actually, or Far East, or East.
Ooh.
I don't know.
How far east?
East.
Well,
or
we'll
potentially
find out.
West. I mean, after a certain point east, you are just heading west. So
Again. Yeah. Evening, James.
yes,
Welcome along, sir.
it was really good.
So
actually,
we haven't
yes.
won then, have we? Because we would have heard, wouldn't we?
Well, I don't think we've won. Like nobody's alerted us to the
We don't-
fact
we
that
haven't-
we might
yeah.
have won.
We've not been
Nobody
told
has
that we
sent us a
haven't.
message or
Or
anything
we
like that,
have.
so-
So I'm going to treat that as a win, more personally.
Yes.
Yeah, I would.
Currently, we are 100% win and lose rate. Like
We are
We are
winning and
Schrodinger's cat.
losing in
we are
equal measure.
Schrodinger's cat in reference to awards. So yay for us. In that we have both won and lost. So that's excellent. Andy, you had some news.
Me?
Yeah, you're the only Andy here.
Yes, literally.
My
Only-
thing keeps cutting out.
Only you.
You have news.
Well, it was going to be like universal news that we are now fully attending.
Oh yes,
NAE.
that's a good news story. Yeah,
That is a good news story.
We are.
yeah.
I have been given a free pass, a hall pass from the boss. So I'm allowed to attend, even though it's her birthday weekend.
Bring her along. Camping.
Oh yeah, she'd love that, mate. Yeah, yeah. Why
There's a
didn't I
beer
think of
tent.
that? Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. Beer tent.
There's nothing more romantic than a weekend getaway at an airsoft festival with lots of sweaty men and women running around the woods with their toy guns.
Absolutely. It just sounds like a slice of fried gold.
Fried gold.
Oh, Anthony's back.
Forgot
Anthony.
my username says, are you three having a stronk? The UK's been in BST for 3 weeks now. I'll be honest with you, I just thought we were always at GMT, which is Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah, I have to admit I was the same.
Didn't really know that. there
Yeah,
was
I did. I
a
know. Obviously,
BST.
I know spring forward and fall back, but I didn't know. I thought it still remained as GMT.
I thought
didn't
just
realise it was-
GMT just moved, but
Yeah,
Just moved.
I reckon it's just all bollocks, really, isn't it? They just do it to piss farmers off. That's what it is.
well, actually, I read somewhere that it wasn't actually brought over by farmers. It was brought over. So it was originally done, I believe, in Germany for farming, and then a British golfer went over and decided that this would be great because it gives them more time to golf.
Fucking golfers.
I'm not gonna say that's 100% correct, but that is an article that I read relatively recently about British summertime. So there you go. If anything, we've learned a potential fact. Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm speechless. You read an article on summertime.
Well, that just sounds amazing.
British
mate.
summertime.
British. Oh, that's all right then. I'll take it back. That sounds incredibly
Forgot my
exciting.
username said it's called British summertime, and you thought it didn't apply to the UK.
Yeah, all right.
Look,
Forgot your
how long have
username.
you been watching us? You,
Steady
you know
on.
exactly what we're like.
We're going to take this sort of abuse 6 minutes into the show. Plenty of time for that. Give us a little while, right?
Lance, you had a purchase this week, I believe.
My purchase has arrived. Brace yourselves. The
Oh, it's
lid for
very
my
exciting.
cup. The piece in particular, which I'm excited to show off most, was the bit that baffled Mike, and it is the little handle.
Little
that you
handle.
use.
D-ring.
So there we go.
Do you have to use the extended pinky to lift that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you do. probably.
No,
I've
I
actually
don't mean
got-
lift
got
it with
with
the
that.
pinky. I meant you lifted it like that.
Oh,
Like that.
There you go.
yes. I might actually grow a longer pinky nail, and just so I can just hook it underneath. You know. There
For
we
our
go. So yeah, that's
audio
all
only
right.
listeners, Lance proceeds to lift the lid of his new Crusader Cup lid with his pinky extended.
Oh, sorry, hang on, I didn't extend the pinky. Well, your description is
No.
inaccurate. There we go. Describe, Mike. Describe. You're not describing.
He's then licking the lid in a really, really awkward way. Andy
The
and Mike
eyes
look
were-
on uncomfortably.
And he leaves.
The eyes. Yeah, the eyes were doing it for me on that one, mate. I'm sorry. I was mesmerised. I was like, what is happening?
Steve, a pygmy cooking pot. Yeah, so pretty much, mate. Yeah, enough to get a litre of water in there, mate, and boil up the old ration pack meals. Just trying to get that boil faster. I want to try this again. There's going to be more science with that. See if I
More
can
science.
bring that time down a bit. I think it's about 8-9 minutes, if I remember rightly. We shall see. We shall see.
Is that the end of the news?
I haven't got
Anything
another
else
news.
anyone wants to mention?
I've ordered a
Oh.
58-pound water bowl
Nice.
for $6.99. It comes with another cup. So that'll be on its.
Which
that's on
cup
its
does
way.
it come with?
Mark
What?
II or
Just a black 58-pound cup.
Well, no, because you can obviously get a plastic one. They do metal ones. They do the.
Oh, it's just
BCB,
it's just
Mark
the stat.
II. I know a lot
Just the
about
sta-
canteen cups.
It's just a standard black cup that goes on the
Cool.
bottle.
Okay.
Don't make it more than what it is, baby.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Just asking the question.
he's trying to make content.
He is contenting.
Oh, we'll call that the end of the news.
This is the end of the news. Oh.
So this evening we're going to be talking about specialist roles.
It's not a
Um,
canteen. It's
I-
not a canteen,
I
Rage.
like
You're
to-
right.
Yeah.
Jackass.
We're going to be talking about specialist roles. So we're going to be kind of delving into the MilSim specialist roles that we were obviously talking about previously. So we've done one on TLs, we've done one on ROs, we've done riflemen, support gunners. So tonight we're going to be covering specialisms. So these are things that you don't necessarily see at every event. So you might have these for certain taskings. Oh God.
Is that even a
might
word?
have these for-
Specialisms.
Yeah,
That's not a word.
Specialisms.
I've never heard the term specialism. What is your specialism? That can't be right. You've made that up.
I thought it was
No, it's definitely a
specialisation.
word. No, specialisms is a word.
Evening, lads. Evening,
You
Kieran.
No.
Uneducated.
Sarah McNeary's on the bloody canteen bandwagon. You can wind your neck in as well. Enough of that. Siding with Mike. What's the matter with her?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And I mean, if enough people start using it, that will just change the common language, and then we're fine. It's all,
No, it
it's
won't.
all-
Canteen is a building you go into for food.
yeah.
End of story.
With my water bottle.
Absolutely, because it's a bottle that contains water. It's very fucking self-explanatory. It's like we call pavements pavements, and the Americans decided to call it a sidewalk.
Yeah, well, it's because Americans are very
rest my
literal about
case.
what they have. To be fair, I would expect water bottle. I would expect water bottle to be the American one because it is literally a bottle that contains water. Les just said it's a fucking cup.
It's a cup, yeah, it is a cup. We weren't even talking about bottles, Les, was we? We was talking about. I ordered a new bottle. To be fair, I'll give you that.
Sorry, Andy, were you proving me right?
Yeah, I was proving you right, bastard.
What specialism?
Specialisms is a word, but it's not with a Z.
Specialism.
No, I never said it was with a Z.
It just sounded like you pronounced it with a Z.
Okay. Anyway, we're going to be talking about specialisms that you can undertake. So, for example, we're going to be covering an engineer role, a Recon or Recce role, Mortar Team, Intelligence Officer / Interrogator, Medic, UAV Operator, and an EOD Specialist. And I'm going to refer to it as both a Recce and a Recon because we have a third of our listeners are from the States. So,
well, they just need to get involved.
Welcome to you in Texas and Canada.
Yeah, welcome to all our American Canadians.
Yes, hello to our Russian counterpart.
Yeah, and what was it? The capital of Wales, Mike? Was it Belfast? You said.
I'm not playing this game.
Absolute plank.
Yes, and all our Canadian listeners.
Yeah, in Washington.
Yeah, New York.
Like why Mike's never our navigator or anything, or is in charge of any map reading skills. Any of them.
I actually got an A in my geography A level.
Specialismist.
No, that's a lie. I got a C.
Specialismist.
I got a C in my geography A level. I can tell you why a place is there, but just not where it is. So there you go.
I know why it's over there, but I just don't know how to get there.
It's because of the terminal moraine from the glacier.
Yeah, terminal moraine.
Old dude went, I'm going to put
It's
a house
British
there.
Standard Time.
Yes.
A, B, C, or other British Standard Time. It's the geography, idiot. Oh, right.
Silly gilly evening. I'm late. What did I miss? Not a lot at this point.
Nothing.
A little bit of
Nothing.
news and some rambling.
Literally nothing.
Apparently, specialisms is a word out of Big Dick Mike's Silver Spoon book. So there we go.
Oh,
And,
I want to read that publication. That sounds fun.
Just because specialism is a word doesn't mean that water bottle is a canteen. You will not refer to it as Recon. I will fight the Americans if they don't like it.
Go Rage. I'm right behind you. About
was from
400
Rage.
yards behind you. I'll be right there. Bring it up.
Kind of going.
I'll be having a bag of water bottles to keep Rage hydrated on his battle with the Americans. Yeah, that'd be my role.
Yes.
I'm happy with that. That's my specialism role. Specialism role.
Anyway,
Water bottle
let's
boy.
stop debating the English language because I didn't think we would have to be doing an English lesson tonight. For starters, sorry, that's okay.
I'm dyslexic.
For
guys,
starters,
you know.
Okay. For starters,
Dyslexics for the world untie.
Oh God. What was your
unite.
Favourite? What would be your favourite specialist role from that list?
Greg's.
Mine would be a cheese and spinach.
Yeah, mine's a spring roll.
I was not going to get a spring. That's the only reason you did it. You ordered Chinese, wasn't it?
No, I actually just bought one spring roll. Just... That's a lie. I had 3. I had to have 2 before the show because they tasted so good.
Yeah. Well, when you turned around at like 5 o'clock and said, "Do you want to go to Greg? Like, do you want to make a roll?" And I was like,
Do you want me to?
Greg's is cold.
Do you want me to ASMR this up to the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's gross.
Oh, no. That's
you got
stupid.
to do it for 'em.
Stop it. That's delicious. That is lovely.
You two control yourselves. Right, we're going to
Went
start
through me
off.
a bit quick.
We're going to start off with engineers. So, an engineering role. I'm just going to keep going. An engineering role depends very much on the event. You might roll an engineer into a breaching role. They may have special taskings to do in terms of bomb establishment. So, for example, rather than an EOD role that's just disarming bombs, you may have an engineer role that's kind of there to place a bomb or undertake some sort of tasking in terms of you might be establishing. I think we've been to events we've had to establish pump stations.
Well, like almost like a sapper sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Got on the
Riff
sappers.
do it So if a vehicle gets taken out, so a vehicle can only be taken out by an engineer, but it can also only be repaired by an engineer, which is a good tactic.
That's
So
cool.
if your vehicle goes down, it means that the engineer is now actually quite important, and he becomes uno numero.
Has he just got to be like an engineer though, or has he got to have like a specific
Yeah,
kit
he's
on
got
him,
to
like
have,
a
like,
tool
got a
kit
big
or some
spanner.
description?
Yeah.
Like a huge novelty one, like a foam finger, but it's a foam spanner. Oh, engineers incoming!
Starts whacking the vehicle with it.
Lance Deep Throat. Good grief! What is this turned into?
This is
Put him in the sin bin, Mike. Sin bin. Many
ASMR
people.
thing.
Entering
James C
dodgy-
says entering dodgy 80s porn territory.
What do you mean entering? It's already been there.
If everyone's lucky, I'm just going to say this now. If everyone's lucky, we will
What? Hang on.
record a little behind the scenes thing. That's not porn, just to clarify. But we may record some sort of ASMR thing that you can just download at your own free will.
Listen to while you're in the bath with your bath bomb and your candles lit.
I'll be sick. I'm sorry. I'll be like,
That'd be Andy's contribution to the ASMR. Be him just chundering all over the floor.
We'll put that to one side for the moment, and we'll come back to that at another point because we're discussing MilSim specialisms,
never come
specialist roles, or whatever you want to call it.
Specialismists.
Specialisms.
Specialismists. So yeah, I mean,
That's
I
like
think
that bit on
Andy-
Ali G, innit? Where they turn up at the thing. We as specialists. Oh no, we as experts.
We's expert.
We as experts, innit? Sorry, Mike.
Andy's kind of hit it on the head there in terms of, I mean, I think the main times I've ever seen an engineer role in play is with vehicle repair. You do sometimes get a kind of a breaching role. I know that AI 500, whilst we may not be a particular fan, they did have breaching roles within their team setups where certain gates and access points, certain gates and access points could only be breached using C4
Must have missed
blocks.
that bit.
So that was, I don't think we ever saw that because I think we were way past the doors that were being breached. But that is a role that obviously the engineer can undertake.
Yeah. Also setting up like communications. So some of the objectives can only be done by engineers, like fixing radio communications and towers. And I think there was one that I went to an event where there was a bridge, like, and it wasn't destroyed, but you couldn't use it until the engineer had been on it for something like 10 minutes, and you had to literally keep the engineer alive for 10 minutes while he repaired the bridge. That was good fun.
Would you say there's a bit of a
He's
blurred
playing
line
with
between
mission.
engineer and like an EOD, like a demolitions expert type thing? I mean, where's the line with it? Like, what point does it stop being an engineer? And like,
I would see them as two separate roles. I would see your engineer as being the fixer-upper and the blower-upper, and the EOD is the man that goes, I've just found your blowy up a bit, I'm going to deactivate it.
that's a good shout. Yeah, that's a fair one.
EOD is the anti-bang. Engineer is the bang. Maybe.
You're the anti-bang to my
I mean,
bang.
I say it's very event dependent. I mean, you'll find that different events have different rule sets and
Yeah.
different setups.
Delicious.
I mean, I've often thought it would be entertaining if you could have an event by which the only forms of communications were done through physical telephone wires. So you have to like trail a wire across the ground to say. I don't know how the practicality
That
of
would
that
be
from
cool.
a health and safety point
Like,
of view.
if like was it back at Longmore, for example, like setting up telecommunications between the buildings, like if you had platoon houses, like you had a couple of sections like dotted about, and you had to actually run a cable for local comms. That'd be quality, like a wicked little tasking.
Because then
Yeah,
you've
man.
also got the tasking where you could break those.
Well, it's that cutting lines and then going out and having to repair
yeah,
stuff and that
that'd
to
be
establish
brilliant,
comms again and shit. That'd be awesome.
I mean, maybe rather than break, you could have like a plug that you just unplug and then replug in again. But that would be quite. That would be quite cool type of event. Yeah, John said field phones work for safety net. So exactly
Couple
that. I mean, if you
Fuck's sake, Terry.
Well,
Terry's just standing at one side.
Terry's one to
gonna
be
say
that
the same
field
thing.
telephone where you have to
Shouting.
wind it like that. And hello, hello, Terry.
I mean, especially if you were to make it so that the teams weren't allowed like a regular comm system. So, for example, say, I mean, we're harking on to modern warfare here from the sort of games and online sort of systems and like that. But you know the EMP blasts that you can use as a kind of counter ability measure that you could. It's like a perk, isn't it? You get like the counter UAV or something like that. If you had the ability that you could take away people's comms, that's obviously going to impact their game. It's going to mean that they have to protect their comms. Their comms become much more important and functional in terms of relaying information between bases. You could even have runners at that point, which would make it more interesting as well. So, you know, are you going to rely on your comm system to get an important message back to your FOB or whatever, or are you going to send a runner? The runners can obviously be intercepted. That would be an interesting concept for a game, potentially.
So what?
Ray said you'll be wanting carrier pigeons next.
No, I'll be eating them. They'll be in the pan, mate. Bit of salt and pepper, cherry tomatoes, beautiful.
Yeah.
What sort of a kit then for an engineer?
Anti-comms Kestrel.
Yeah,
Comms Kestrel.
What sort of a kit for an engineer? Like a small toolkit? I mean, like, because nothing that you wouldn't carry anyhow. Like in your riff repair kit, like side cutters and stuff. Anything specific you'd say, like bolt croppers and stuff.
Maybe like a couple of pounds of
C4.
C4. I'm doing
Genuine
that.
C4.
Genuine C4.
I brought my Play-Doh.
Well, it could be some form of like deck, some sort of deck cord C4. You know, the actual probes that they put into the C4. I've had a complete brain fart just now. That roll was delicious.
Detonators.
That is the detonators. That's not the trigger, is it?
That's
No,
the
trigger's
detonator.
the one that you hold.
So C4, I happen to know this.
C4 in itself
dissertation
isn't
on,
actually that dangerous, is it, on its own as a thing?
So plastic explosive has, if you think of the energy release that's required.
We can talk about this, can't we, before we go any further?
I believe we can.
We'll find out.
This is public information, so this is a very freely available on the website, or not our website. Fuck me, we're not seeing instructions
How
on
to
how
make
C4
C4.
No, so the way that C4 works is that C4 is it's an explosive, but you require a primary detonation explosive to give it enough energy that it can then arc, and I forget the terminology, but it then arcs and then releases its energy. So you need to have that initial detonation explosive, which is why if you take the detonator out of C4, the detonator is quite a small explosive because the majority of the explosive energy is coming from the C4 for the actual primary task of that. Yeah, for the primary task of that explosion. So yeah, it's an interesting little thing, but it's ultimately not
C5. I've seen that knocking around.
I don't know. Channel 5?
No. It was on boomsticks.
So that'd be cool. So an actual like a C4 deck kit, like a shapes charge kit, if you like.
Yeah.
Wire cutters, bolt croppers, some sort of spool of wire or something,
and a wrench or something for vehicle repairs. So you have to have your wrench.
Set of sockets or
you
something.
You have to have
like
your wrench in your hand while you're working on a tasking.
That's cool. No, I like it.
Make that not sound dirty.
So it makes you. It's another, again. It's an element of like you need that roll there. That roll's got to be there in place. You can choose not to have one, but then you won't be able to do any of the following sort of things. You know what I mean? And it also it makes you choose like having specialist roles within the team, doesn't it? Which is cool.
Yeah, I mean the other aspect of all of this is that if, depending on how the game event is organised, if the organisers were to give specialist briefings to engineers or medics or whoever's doing a specialist tasking, it means that they actually have theoretically got a skill set. So it's not just a case of oh Dave's dead, Jake, you're the engineer now. It means that they've got to have an element of understanding of that, how that mechanism works for that gameplay. So it's not just, medic rules are a classic example of that, and we'll come on to medics in a bit, but most sites you don't generally need to have a medic because ultimately you've got a couple bandages. After being hit out once or twice, you're just dead and you go respawn. With events which run a medic role, you can potentially have 5 or 6 bandages on you, but you are utilising the team's ability to medic people.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah. What sort of loadout kit do we reckon we would have as an engineer? We'll just cover that quickly. It's like, to me, I would probably suggest it's going to be like an M4 sort of rifle platform or an SMG.
I would be steering more towards an SMG, a bit more compact, in and out of vehicles quite a lot, I'd imagine.
Shotgun, I would have thought, for breaching.
perhaps, you know, and obviously like a day sack with obviously the relevant kit requirements you'd need in it. A lot of them, the time you see, they usually work in pairs as well, don't they? So whether there's actually two people, one being more of a like, to be able to put security in whilst the other guy's working on something. So you know, divvying the kit up between them and stuff. That could be quite a good little like, buddy system sort of role to fulfil. That could be quite good. Yeah, a basic load. Obviously they're both he or she would both be riflemen anyhow, regardless. But they're obviously their chosen subject, if you like, would be like their EOD or whatever it is.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I've been
cool.
to events where you can't
I like
go.
that. That should be
So
developed
if you
more. I
sort
think.
in a building, they'll have like 2 buildings with like tape on it, like on the door. And unless you've got an engineer in your squad, you can't enter through that section of the door, like section of the building. So you have to go through like the main entrance, which is probably more heavily guarded. That was really fun actually, because we ended up trying to go.
Well,
through
even
the
trails,
main
you
door.
could they could even like organise as if it's a large site that you're at. You know, there could be certain trails which are littered with landmines, or there's an IED threat there, and you know, luckily for us, Mike's got 2 Valons or something, so we've actually got kit that you can sort of you can check ground and things like that. But if not everyone has that, so if you had the element of like, right, okay, fair enough, but you've got an engineer in your team, as long as you've got the engineer in your team and he's active and in play, then you can move through that section. But if you haven't got if you've not got an engineer in your section, then you can't use that. You can't use that trail. You can't use that area there. Do you know what I mean? And it forces people to think, oh Christ, well we haven't got one, so we can't go that way. Do you know what I mean? And it sort of changes the dynamic of the game, which would be quite cool. You know, almost like engineers only section. You just have every engineer from the event just all there together.
We've got no medics. We're going to die.
It's not only fans; it's just only engineers.
I mean, you know, ultimately the ability to have certain kit and bits and pieces is going to massively affect the gameplay and the taskings. You know, for example, if you've got an event where you are running a Recon or Recce section, which ultimately they've all got sniper rifles, they're not going to be clearing buildings. There's no point in employing that team to be doing building clearance. You know,
No, they'd be good for
not to say they can't, but it's just
Then that's not what they're there for, is it? What do you think about what we did at Mac, mate? You think of Mac, what we did there? I'd consider that being as a specialist role, because that's something. I mean, I've never done that before on any other event, in an actual Recce situation.
I'm just
Don't give me
giving
all
a bit of
that.
love to the,
Gee whiz.
Right, well let's move on to the EOD specialist, because I think that kind of nicely rolls into that.
You get 2 more than you get slaps at the weekend.
I might like that.
What about REME vehicle recovery? Yeah, defo, mate. Yeah, absolutely. All that stuff can be brought into it. Vehicle recovery. If there's a vehicle strike, you know, it's got to be recovered back to the main patrol base or FOB before it can then enter the game again. And only an engineer can bring it back with a designated driver or however it'll work. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think the only thing I would add is that if you are running an event where you've got an engineer role, looking at Defiant here, because I think they're in the chat, don't have it set up, because the number of events that I've seen where, and these aren't Defiant events to clarify, these are some other companies, but the number of events where you get to a location and you just have to stand there for an hour whilst you activate the bomb or you're defusing the bomb. Actually,
there's no
make
element
that
of doing
defusing
something,
thing
is there?
an actual thing, because it means that if you're under stress and under fire, it's harder to focus on what you're doing. And I think that's where it comes into having either specialist training or like a little handbook. You can have these like little laminated handbooks. Make it complicated. Make it something that people have to flick through and they've got to read information and do stuff and pull a wire out.
Well, that's what they did.
Combination code.
That's what they did on the bridge build. Like he literally had to go around and like move like logs and stuff that they put on the bridge, and he had to literally like pretend to do up nuts and bolts with a spanner and things like that for 10 minutes. And they said if you as soon as you stop and you just stand there, then the timer stops because you're just standing there doing nothing, and that worked really well.
That's fair enough. Yeah,
he did get shot twice, but that's fine.
Gutted.
Right, EOD. So, I mean, SEO in the chat. My EOD kit and EMOE kit is the same. So EMOE, for those that don't know, is the explosive method of entry, and EOD stands for explosive ordnance disposal. I believe that's correct.
Sweet.
So talking of
British
EOD
style.
or ATO, which is the ammunitions technical officer, I believe. I think I will just check that. That's a role that I've actually undertaken prior. It was quite a good event to do that. We had metal detectors. The site was so full of bits of metal because it was made up with made ground that the pretty much everywhere was going beep, 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 beep the whole time. So the metal detectors actually worked out to be relatively useless in that particular scenario. However, having the ATO role or the EOD role at that event, we obviously had the explosives, which had a sweeper pad, like a little pad that you obviously tread on, and then that classes as the explosion. So it was useful having that. I was then shown how to deactivate that. So again, if things were found, I was the one to go in and ultimately blow up. And I think I managed to defuse one IED for the course of that weekend. We managed to detonate one by crossing the path and then coming back again, and then we'd missed treading on the detonator plate the first time and hit it the second time, which was particularly fun. But
that's how you disarm them. Is it just walking?
Yeah, but again, it's a good role, and if one does go off, that's potentially if you're all bunched up in that, that's potentially a squad wipe, isn't it? Or at least 2 or 3 guys that are either wiped or severely injured, and then that creates a Gazivac situation. That then brings a medic role into the gameplay.
Yeah.
And then you're onto the elements of the QRF. Need to bring a vehicle in. There's a chance a vehicle gets hit. The engineer's got to sort that out. So there's all these roles going on in one little scenario, which makes it great. Quality little bits and bobs going on.
So from an EOD loadout, do we think that you would have much of a different specialism from the engineer?
I think
I think it just ultimately revolves around the taskings.
Yeah, I mean, obviously EOD, you'll have like a marking kit as well for like marking routes. When doorways are clear and things like that, I think it's like a blue chem light or something, or a red chem light for something that's not been checked, or there's a hazard there or something like that. There's different bits and bobs that you'd carry compared to an engineer.
Flags as well. You can.
Yeah, little marker flags.
Little marker
You can use like tins, like coloured spray, like marker paint, things like that for marking routes and stuff like that you've checked.
I know we've had this conversation before, but for anyone that doesn't know, the Valen metal detectors have a mine-sweeping clearance kit.
The blue dye.
Which is a pressurized, it's a pressurized canister that clips onto the Valen system with a hose. That you can then there's a little nozzle that comes out where the detector head is. So you've got a little trigger, but by your hands. You kind of, if you hit some metal or anything like that, you can just squeeze the trigger, and it just releases a pressurized blue spray. Which is just a little dye kit that you just mix water into. I'd never used this kit before. I was very excited to use it. I pressurised it all up, and I'm out there marking the ground. The Reaper guys were following on behind. I think Terry, Les. Can't remember if Dale was there or not. I know there was a few of them sort of following on behind me, trying to miss all the blue spots that I was spraying, because I say everything was metal in that ground. Got back to my basher after the tasking. I was like, right, I'm going to probably dismantle the Valen at this point. Clearly, I don't know why I sat in my basher to start with, because literally I had the roof here. I opened up the canister, not remembering that it's pressurized. This shit went everywhere. I've got blue. I basically look like I got jizzed on by a Smurf. I'm just going to put that out there. But it was horrendous, and a lot of my kit is still stained blue because I can't get this stuff out.
Genius.
So yeah,
absolute
be
genius.
careful if you're going to use any sort of pressurized identification marker.
James says it's almost like you need to have training. Go figure. You can just pick up any bit of British military kit, just use it. That's fine. Just fucking crack on.
Yeah, it's good fun though. I use it for a little bit of metal detecting down at the beach as well.
Do you did you actually find out how you depressurize that can in the end, or do you still not know how to?
Yes, I've come up with a procedure, which is you stand fucking far away from it when you open it up.
Right, okay.
Or you just hold the trigger down, and it will obviously release the spray out.
Fair play.
Yeah. Would you? So I know a lot of the EOD kits I've seen, they always seem to add on a load of bulk to their body armor or like. So you often see a lot of Osprey vests with the full collar the brassards, the full-on everything.
I think that's
Yeah,
because they
ballistic
wanna look-
nappies
that-
and
that's
stuff like that.
because
But
they
then a
wanna
lot of the
look
guys, like
the,
especially like you watch documentaries like of Afghan and that, especially like the Yanks went mad for our British ballistic nappies. Like a goal that went on to protect the crown jewels and that. Apparently they were like rocking or shit trying to get hold of them because the Yanks were always after them. But yeah, I suppose there's going to be an element, especially if you're actually going into defuse. I mean, like you see, what was it, Hurt Locker, feels like that, and they're actually fully armoured up, aren't they? Look like some sort of dreadnought stomping about the place, which I think might be a bit excessive for an airsoft event. But we don't know. Maybe it's called for. If you've got to put a cordon in and evacuate people because it's a huge device or something that's been located, that'll. Oh, Alien World Airsoft, welcome along, mate.
Hello.
Evening.
It does depend on the IED that you're disposing of. So, for example, if you are recreating a kind of Hurt Locker situation,
feels like 12 artillery shells in a circle, weren't they? Just all wired into each other, and he just picks them up. And it's like, yeah. I'll be like, yeah. So I mean, that.
I can see that because I know Andy and I have sort of been talking about doing an EOD loadout because Andy makes little robots. And I like dressing up, so that's a natural pairing there.
Can you tell where that's going?
Yeah. But then, and I'm going to use the television as a reference point here because I don't have actual experience in the army. But if anyone ever saw the series Bluestone 4-2, I believe that was whilst a comedy loosely based on accurate British kit, as close as possible. And they generally tended to attend IEDs. With the Osprey vest. I know one of the things that I did find interesting was if you are running an EOD roll, apparently the best thing is to not have anything on the front because of all you're doing is creating shrapnel in front of you. So if the blast goes up, it's just going to knock everything off the front of your plate carrier up into your face.
It's a lovely thought.
Sorry, I was laughing because Terry said, "Would you class that as a blue on blue?"
Most definitely.
Yeah.
I think it was blue in blue at one point.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, I think we'll probably say that the EOD is not too dissimilar from the engineer role. Obviously, different taskings and the like. Let's roll into something slightly different. So let's do mortar teams. I'm going to defer to Lance to kind of kick this one off because I know you were probably one of the first between the three of us to have a mortar.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah.
They're good fun. I like them, but I mean, like you see them now, though they're not really used that for all intents and purposes. That you don't really see them often getting used as a mortar, do you? Let's be honest. There's variations out there now that are all shoulder mounted, and it's just sort of like, not my bag. But yeah, anyhow, like a mortar team sort of thing, like a 2 or 3 man team. One with additional rounds and stuff like that on him, carry and keeping it accurate as you possibly can. I mean, I don't know how many rounds. Sort of one infanteer could carry as within a mortar team, whether it be sort of 6 or 8 rounds in a sort of day sack, maybe, I don't know. But that would be cool. Obviously you've got the actual mortar itself, the tube. I don't know, what would you call the target? Obviously you'll have one operating the mortar. There'd obviously be a loader or firer. It's only usually 2 guys you see there, wouldn't you?
I think you have an observer as well.
The mortar, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. I mean, obviously, if it's the infantry mortar, 38mm, you just operate that on your own.
Yeah, I think that's still a 2-man. I think that is a 2-man. That is a 2-man team. I think. That little one,
okay.
'cause you have an ammo carrier. I don't know. I'm sure there are people in the chat that have more experience with that than us.
But the more, I mean, I think it brings like creating a teamed element to an event, like individual. The 88's got 3 guys on it. Yeah. Is there a 42mm as well? Is there a 42mm mortar? Am I making that up? I'm sure there's a 42. 44. I don't know. Anyhow, what was I going to say? Yeah, so it's great. Like you said, like you've always said, Mike, about having like machine guns and having actually having a machine gun team sort of thing where you've got like the ammo carrier and that you've got the operator of the machine gun and making that as like a crew, like a gun crew for that. And bringing that element of buddy system to it, like obviously with the gun can't fire because you haven't got the guy there with the ammunition with it and things like that. That's cool, and it should be the same with mortars. It makes them not harder to carry, but it's not like I just sling it in my day sack and I'll carry 90 fucking mortar rounds in my pack. It's like, well, No, because that's just excessive, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Although technically we can, because they're only little cardboard tubes, and you could probably get that in a day sack. You know, I'd say sort of between sort of like 4 and 6 would be more than enough for one person to carry, as well as all their other kit, and sort of try and keep an element of realism to it. Because if you've got 3 guys in a team that all decide, oh, we're all going to take our mortars out, and we've all got 9, I mean, it's just like an absolute massive barrage, and it'd be the same sort of thing. It'd be the same thing if you've got like a UGL. Do you know what I mean? If you've got a grenadier in a section that's got a UGL, I mean, how many realistically 40mm grenades would he carry in the field? I mean, I know you can get bandoliers of 13 or 14, but actually physically on him, as well as all his other kit, that's going to be an awful lot. I don't know what the numbers would be on that. I mean, I'd sort of be tempted to sort of say in the region between sort of like 6 and 8 maybe rounds. I don't know, but that's something to bear in mind. But yeah, like a mortar crews, yeah, I think they bring a wicked, and they're so cool to see. You actually see someone there holding the tube, and someone dropping the rounds in, boof, 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 all going off. There's a great video. The Reaper boys did a great video. 3 of them operating 3 individual tubes, which was cool. Yeah, I like that. 6 UGL rounds is normal. Depends on ops. Would have been more. So between 6 and 8 UGL rounds. That's I'd say that'd be a fair assumption. And I think it's 2 UGLs per 12-man section. Ryan, is it? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's usually 2 riflemen have got UGLs in a section, in a full section. Obviously, you got your DMR and your LMG.
John says mortar rounds on the ground would be spread out in the section, would be about 16 to 20 in all. That's smoke and nightlight rounds.
Right. Okay. So explosive rounds and that would be less than that still. So yeah. I'm all for bringing the realism as much as possible. It's like see people like carrying like 12 Mark 5s in a pack. Like, yeah, I know we can do that, but you wouldn't. You'd have a smoke, perhaps 2 frags at a push, and maybe a flashbang. So I'd say 4 sort of types of pyrotechnics on any one person. Whether that be 4.
And I think that makes the game more interesting as well. So when you're room clearing, you're not sitting there just throwing pyro.
Well, that's it, because I've seen it. Someone with Mark 5s just chucking them over the wall, just chucking Mark 5s, just bang. I mean, it sounds great. Don't get me wrong, it does. It sounds brilliant, but it's not. You're not there to just create good sounds for other people. It becomes the point where it's just like, oh my god, please stop. Do you know what I mean? So I think that should be monitored. I think is the amount of pyro.
Yeah, there's weren't we, where they lobbed pretty much an entire box of pyro at us. I mean, you're probably talking. We were probably sitting there because we were dead after the first one. But following.
But you just couldn't move. You were literally tucked into the thing, trying to move, and you just couldn't because they were just constantly coming over.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 and you were just like that, and you were like shit.
I was next to that lad at the Defiant event. After the football match. And he was he just had like Mark 5s lined up on the fence, and he was just like that with the whole thing. I was like, what is happening? I was like, no one can move and then I think one of his grenades blew up James, as James was trying to sort something out, because he was just throwing them randomly wherever.
One thing I will say with the Mark 5 is that if you had a little bit of masking tape, and I suggest masking tape because I think that's more biodegradable than some of the other sellotapes. But if you strap like a little ring of that around one end, you get a little bit more throwing out of it.
Ball of clay, mate. Ball of clay. That's the best one.
Yeah, or clay. Yeah.
You get a ball of clay, and you can get miles on them. And sometimes, if you're ultra lucky, it sticks to a wall.
Put it on a little slingshot, it works even better.
That's the Play-Doh. That's why we need more Play-Doh at the event.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. That'd be awesome. Modelling clay for Mark 5s and shape charges.
We've obviously covered engineer and EOD and mortars. Let's talk about medics.
Good old
medic
medics.
roles.
I've done this role.
Medic roles are probably the one that are most
Yes.
universally used.
Evening, Marky boy. How are you? Still comes back to haunt me.
I think it does still work. LanceLance.com.
No,
if
it does
anybody
now.
would like to,
we had a little blip a couple of weeks ago, but Lance.
Oh, I'm pleased. I'm so glad it's working again. Oh,
Yeah.
really worried.
Yeah, no, it does still work.
Yeah,
Excellent.
it still works.
Sorry, forgot my username. Says I'm simulating an airstrike. I mean,
Good lad.
you could do that. I have seen skirmish days where they simulate an airstrike
Even
where you
Recce.
lob in a certain kind of smoke, and then marshals would just start flinging Mark 5s around, which I think actually works quite well. You know, if you've got within the range that you can lob that Mark 5, and
That's
it's
cool.
a
That's cool. I like the
tactic
sound of
within
that.
that
That's
game,
quite fun.
that's a nice idea. If you're just literally running around on a MilSim event and you've got a bag of
Like
500
going,
Mark 5s,
"Roar."
I'm a plane.
Yeah, I'm an AK warthog.
And I've come to get you.
Just a 40 mic coming out your mouth so you can like replicate like the AA-10 or whatever.
Don't. Yeah, don't open your mouths because that'll be turned into a meme in seconds. Don't do it. I was literally about to go. No, I'm not going to do that. No. Marky Mark's in, so that's not happening.
Yeah, so medics. We obviously medics are probably the one that's most universally used at events. For those that haven't seen a medic role, it generally tends to be a player who is fairly lighter on their feet. I would argue. No?
That's a lie. Because
Well, I've done it.
The time with our squad, we go.
I've done it as well, and I've been terrible.
A lot of the time, we go. You haven't got a role. You're the medic, and then they're like, "Oh, great!" And we're
Cheers,
like,
yeah. And again, see, that's when it needs to make it a more appealing role to carry out, doesn't it? Actually give it some more structure and bit of gumption behind it. You know, we've spoken before about some of our events about actually issuing everyone gets 5 or 3. Was it 3 or 5 different injury cards?
5 injury cards, wasn't it?
And literally, you keep them in a pocket or something like that. You just grab one out and just say that's my injury. So it'll be applied bandage, so lower leg injury or head injury or upper arm injury or torso injury, anything like that,
crabs.
just to make yeah, gonorrhea.
Yeah.
Need a strong course of a broad spectrum antibiotic. But yeah, so just to bring that element to that role, which thinks, oh right, Christ, so I've got to treat this now, blah blah blah, or I think there was one sort of like booby trap card in there, which was like Cazivax, and if they picked that out, you actually had to stretcher out the casualty and get them back to a certain distance before they come back into the game.
Like over exaggerated wound. So it was like a little. I think we've had one. Yeah. We've opened it up. And he's basically got an over exaggerated wound on right shoulder, and you just go, "Shut up, get up, get on with it." You're being an idiot.
But yeah, I mean, doing it that way, because otherwise it's just someone running up to you, and it's either like skirmish days, it's like holding on to someone for 10 seconds, and what if you don't turn your back in, or putting a white band on or something like that. But you know, bringing that element to it, which is actually, there is the casualties in front of me. This is what's up with them. You know, and obviously if there's levels of like critical care that's got to be given and things like that, it just brings that. If you're in a firefight, and obviously your medic's got to then take a casualty back, you're then still left with your squad that's not got a medic there. And do we carry on going forward, or do we wait till this has been sorted and then carry on? We got a time limit before we've got to achieve this tasking that we're on.
That's something that Octo do actually rather well, where they say, if you get hit in your torso or your head, that's it. Like, you got to call for you're
critical,
down, and you've got to call for a medic. If you get shot in the legs or the arm, then that you can choose to not use that leg or the arm until you get a medic. Because it's like when you and me.
That's really hard to remember when you don't do it very often.
It's very hard to remember.
Because I've fallen foul of that.
Teams.
When you froze my inner thigh, you bastard.
But then you managed to shoot both my one of my arms and both of my legs, and I'm crawling along the floor with the LMG.
Come back here, I'll bite you.
And it just shot me in the head.
I shot Mike, and I was like, yes, got him, like that. So I walked up to him, sort of like, and literally as I got close, he was laying on his side, and he went, ah! He sat up with his pistol, stuck it in my leg, and pulled the trigger, and all that happened was a massive gas release and it just froze my. I was like, ah! Oh! He was just frozen. And he was like, I was like, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. He was like, I was like, you bastard, you froze my leg.
I was using a new form of airsoft weaponry that's not yet come out on the market.
The frost gun.
The cryogenic.
Yeah. I was Mr. Freeze from Batman that day.
There we go. Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze.
There's also different ways of you can run a medic role. So obviously there's the classic big bag of bits of bedcloth that have been cut into bandages. You can run them with actual bandages. usually out of date ones. For example, the Israeli bandages or sort of that sort of thing where you've got that actual kind of packet of bandage that you sort of strap around. There's I was just trying to find it actually. The MilSim, I believe it's MilSim West, but I might be wrong. There's obviously companies in America that are running events where you have the water bottle system that I know we've talked about before, where the medic actually has to carry around a load of water. So whilst you've been shot out, you are healing whilst drinking that bottle of water.
Yeah.
Which is another thing as well. So if the medic can't just carry around 400 bandages and heal everybody left, right, and centre, you obviously have to offset that weight with the capability of being able to run around and actually get to the.
Could you imagine being really unlucky and getting like shot
situations.
4 times in a row and then just going, I need a pee. I need no more healing for me. Thank you very much.
I don't want to get revived.
Well, it'd be like the whole thing, and that'd be more reason for people to carry their own personal kit, like an in-game kit. Do you know what I mean? Where they've got their own couple of bandages, or they've got a couple of bottles of water additional, which is their medic kit. Especially like John's just said, then a great idea for summer. Great method of keeping people hydrated in the summer. That's
that's
cool.
why they do it. 'Cause some of their events, like,
it's going to be 30, 40 degree heat, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's going to be crazy hot.
So what do we think, medic-wise, loadouts?
I reckon it's just going to be a standard rifleman, but he's going to have a medic kit on him, pretty much. His day set's going to be mainly his medical supplies, maybe a deployable stretcher sort of thing, if the event required it. If we use those cards sort of thing, I've got a couple of them here that are the specific material stretcher. Do you know what I mean? They're not like a basher that's made into a stretcher. They are a stretcher, but like a heavy duty material one. So it'd be that. Can
you imagine if you had to body bag people as well? Like, you can't just.
Oh, mate, yeah.
You're not just dead. You've got to be actually.
Sorry.
Out in a body bag.
That's a little bit excessive. I think.
Well, we did that at Defiant, didn't we?
We did do that with Defiant, and that was a set piece.
Yeah.
And the guy that we body bagged out was horrifically ill for the next 2 hours.
Oh yeah, he was actually got motion sickness, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a bit of a jaunt back, wasn't it?
That was a yum.
But we did it. We achieved that day. That day we achieved.
It's when we got ambushed and Mike goes, defend the casualty, and just laid on him like that and just went, I've got you. I was like, what is
I've got you.
In
his ear. It's like, yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, that's why he's poorly for the next 2 hours.
But the rest of us were
while you guys were fighting off the enemy, I was having to just make sure he stayed alive.
Yeah, I'm just going to try again to resuscitate him, guys. You keep the heads down.
I was like, he's already.
No looking over here. No peeky peeky. Yeah, what are you doing, Mike? Oh, it doesn't matter. It's very, very technical. You wouldn't understand.
I am healing.
I am healing.
Right, so that's medic roles. Let's talk about a UAV operator. So this is probably quite a specific role. It's very specialist in that a lot of events nowadays with the regulations relating to UAVs obviously being a lot tighter. You can't just wander around a site with a little drone or something, whack it up in the air and fly it around. Usually using Defiant as an example, because I'm very acutely aware of their rules, having attending their event this weekend.
Having broken many of them himself.
Yeah.
Constantly getting a bollocking.
Yes.
No, so they obviously they have a requirement for insurance, and there's sort of special briefings if you're going to be running drones and the like. And also, I mean, to be fair, if you've got multiple drones at the game, you don't want the drones flying into each other because that's just going to cause problems as well. So with the drone
I think there should be a time limit of how long they can be used for as well, because as cool as they are and the footage they get is awesome, love it, but then it can be a little bit tedious, can't it, as well? So I think there should be like you've got like overhead cover for approximately sort of like 5 minutes in a designated point on the map. You can't just think, oh, we just stick the drone up and just fly them around, because let's be honest, a lot of sites, they're not huge. You probably could traverse a site, an aerial view of the site in a few minutes, a lot of places. So to say, right, we want you to search these 2 buildings and just hover over them and just gather intel for 5 minutes, that's cool. But to be able to just sling them up and just cut them about willy-nilly, I think that's, that can be a little bit near. if you're trying to sort of manoeuvre around and that. You know, I think it's got to be a specific request from a team out on the ground and say, we've got a feeling that this is going on over there at these 2 buildings, grid reference, blah blah blah. Can we get any sort of like overcover, if you like, or eyes on, just to see what's happening, because we can't see the other side of that building, for example, or something like that. That's when they I think drones sort of come into their own then for gathering intel as well. You know, like counting the numbers and things like that. That's awesome. I like that.
It's particularly useful as well when you have a in-game command structure. So rather than having your 0 being the DS for the event or the game organisers, if you've actually got an internal command team, so for example it might be just a normal player that's booked on, or maybe it's someone that's, you know, taken on that role for that event because of their experiences or their background or anything like that. If you've got like Legion was always very good for this. You usually had like a team of 2 or 3. They were effectively DSs, but they would stay in the compound and they were trying to play the game. So they would be fed little tidbits of information, the briefings and debriefs that kind of went out and came in terms of finding out intel, compiling that together, having information provided in terms of HVTs and the like. You know, if you had the ability to uplink that drone footage to a live command structure that's kind of situated and issuing instructions, like, right, okay, we've just noticed there's an influx of OPFOR moving in from the north, we need you to pull back. You know, that's quite an interesting, but especially if it's a night ops or something like that. You know, there's thermal drones out there nowadays which could make it very interesting. And
well, do you remember that countermeasure we spoke of?
Bitching.
Yeah, oh mate, but
yes, exactly.
That countermeasure we about the IR laser sort of thing, about being able to have a sensor fitted to the drone, and if you've got a launcher on the ground, that you can actually laser designate that drone as a method of like contacting it, and then which would then inadvertently send a signal back to the operator, like a red beacon light flashes or something like that. And if that flashes, obviously he knows his drone's been hit. It's either got to go to ground where it's at, or it's got to return to base and sort of like wait out for like an hour or something like that, like a cool down time. That'd be quite cool, actually, having someone with a launcher that can sort of like laser designate this drone, or sort of like light it up sort of thing, paint it with a laser, and it activates this IR. That'd be awesome. That'd be such a cool element to the game, to be able to take the drones out of the game. And obviously, don't shoot the drones, but to bring that element in where you're sort of simulating shooting it down, that would be quality. That would be fantastic.
Especially if you know that the enemy's got anti-air capability. You know, it might be that your approach to that mission is to take out that anti-air first. You know, you've got a rough idea that there's an AA site or something in the trees off to the left of the main objective. You know, you go and hit that first, take that out, and then you can call in your air support on that basis.
With your engineer planting explosives.
Yeah, I mean, drones, ultimately, you know, you look at the Ukraine war, drones are massively used nowadays, and they're just using... Like,
well, they've literally been developed in that conflict. They've literally developed drone warfare in that conflict, because you don't really see it. You see sort of UAVs and that from Afghan and things like that, like the Reaper, sort of the big stuff. But I mean, I'm talking about the small, compact, sort of backpack-sized bits and bobs that can literally just drop a little bit of what do they call it? Loitering munitions, don't they?
Yeah.
Where it literally, essentially, just hovers the battle zone, just looking for a target.
Most of them are just hand grenades and.
Just modified, literally just modified hand grenades, yeah. Inside something. Some of them are in like bean cans and things like that. So when like they did it in Vietnam, they did such a simple booby trap in Vietnam. Fresh meat, take it easy, man. And it was literally pulling the pin on a grenade, putting it inside a baked bean or an empty can, and then letting it go, and then just tying a bit of string to it. As soon as someone walks through, pulls the grenade out the can, the spoon flips, and that's it. It's game over, sort of thing. Some really basic stuff, but with devastating results.
Dale makes a good point as well. I mean, would be a good scenario for places like Dog Tag or Imperium due to the props and the AA equipment that they got placed. And exactly that.
Definitely, mate. 100%.
It's taking equipment and bits of kit that are already there and actually giving them a bit more of a function rather than just being a prop on the site. You know, Longmoor, for example, they've got the downed helicopter that's in the woods over there, and they've also got some of the helicopters kind of positioned around to. I think they use it for replicating sort of. Not necessarily evac points, but, you know, drop-off points or anything like that. I mean, you could have it so that you are effectively sitting inside the chopper and you deploy from that. So it's utilising that functionality, I guess, a little bit more. Ryan's said drone hawk down. So, I mean, that could, again, be another objective. Yeah. If you've got a downed UAV that you've got to go and recover a memory card from or something like that, that could be interesting. So, yeah, I mean, I think you obviously... you have to obviously comply with the regulations of the UK and the laws and the insurances and stuff behind that, because drones fundamentally can be a bit dangerous if they're not used properly and incorrectly. And some of the massive ones, you've got a massive weight flying around. If you don't know what you're doing, that's obviously not ideal. But they're good fun, and I think they fully have a place. Little RC cars, I was going to just tack that onto UAVs. Do you think they should be used?
No. Well, unless they're serving a role, do you know what I mean? Like, I would, if someone just drove a, like, what's his name done, where he basically just put a claymore onto the back of a RC car, drove it up to people, and just detonated the claymore, I'd be like, no, I'm not taking that. Balls to you, because that's just crap. Because you've got no counter against it. But if you're using it as, say, like a reconnaissance sort of thing, where you're not actually using it as a weapon, then I think it could have its. But I've always wondered about having
a drone with the capability of releasing a tag round from it from above. Because essentially, it's how you fire a tag launcher, isn't it? And you fire it with a trajectory so it goes up and comes down. Yeah. But the tag round's already going to be up the up point. It's only going to be coming down. So I can't see that being a problem, really. From amount of
aviation laws might get.
Yeah, but you're not going to be.
I don't know if you can legally.
You're only going to be.
Or not.
Yeah, but essentially you're just using the drone as a tag launcher, aren't you?
Yeah, but I think you start getting down the route of having basically an actual weapon to a certain extent. I think it's slightly different at that point. I'm not disagreeing with you in terms of the concept. It'd be quite cool.
Because obviously the height, it would be restricted height that you could drop it from, obviously to avoid the velocity. I mean, it's not going to. Surely it's not going to hit the ground any harder than it would be actually launched with a force behind it. It's literally just getting released and dropped to the floor. Yeah, I'd love to see that. That would be cool.
Weird, though, isn't it?
Yeah, weirdos.
The Civil Aviation Authority, so a bit of information. The Civil Aviation Authority says that you cannot do that.
What, they say you can't put tag rounds on drones?
You must never drop anything from a drone or model aircraft.
Huh.
Apparently.
What about...
Well, they say you must or you can't.
Shoot. Must.
Well, they say you can't.
What about shoot?
And is that a law, or are they just saying you can't?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not an expert in this. We can have a chat with someone that is at a later date. We can go away and do our research.
I'm going to strap a Glock to one and see what happens then.
Yes.
Yeah. John says EOD have a more expensive version of an RC car. I think the difference is with the EOD is that you're obviously not fighting other players. You're
exactly that, Dale. What if you was transporting a tag round and it just fell off? Because you can deliver things. You can deliver things. A foam Nerf rocket. There we go. That would do it. With a tag round inside it.
Yeah, with a rock.
That's on fire.
That's on fire. Yeah, and wrapped in barbed wire.
I bet if James is listening to this, he's like, right, I've got to put new rules in.
Yeah. Oh, James is going to be like Mr. Filch in Harry Potter, just banging a new plaque on the wall. No drones with tag rounds on them. And then another, no drones with Nerf darts that look like tag rounds and barbed wire on them.
No Glocks. Sorry, James.
But drones cool certainly, it is. Of course, it's a cool idea. It's an awesome idea. I wonder if we could do it just for purely for the science factor, what it would look like.
Do you know what you could do? Is potentially attach an IR light to a drone.
That's exciting.
So you could almost create artificial moonlight to a certain extent.
Oh, okay. What for the old nod users? So like painting a target for them. That could be cool.
Quirky idea.
Yeah, that could be cool.
I mean, I appreciate it. It's not actually being allowed. You're not actively creating like an attack on the players below you, but if there are other ways. I guess you could use drones on that basis. But yeah, interesting. Yeah. Shall we? Let's talk about, because there's two left. So I want to talk about intelligence officers, not intelligent officers.
Intelligence officers.
Yeah, none of them.
Intelligence officers and interrogators. So obviously there's certain events
thing,
where
mate.
you are required to obtain information from other players. So be that through when I say interrogations, let me just caveat that we're not performing anything from like James Bond with the chair and like the big ball and rope or anything like that. You know,
Waterboarding.
there's no waterboarding. Well, there shouldn't be any waterboarding.
What about like squash boarding? And just
Yeah, you
a
could
bit
do
of throwing
squash boarding.
squash over them. That's fine.
Oh, horrible. Sticky.
Yeah,
Nasty.
that's
Yeah.
sticky.
It's probably worse.
That's probably horrible. Yeah.
Cordial.
Cordial boarded.
Cordial boarding.
I've been round-treed.
Oh no, it's so
Or
sticky.
Robinson.
Absolutely Robinson. Yeah. Other brands are available. Yeah, interrogation. Yeah, I suppose that whole thing, like, you sort of, are you being vanilla and just sort of handing over the intel, or are you going to role play the whole capture and sort of retrieve information and stuff, you know?
But then
It'd be quite good if there's an actual interrogation centre to bring people back to, with harrowing
We
screams.
did that.
and-
That was an apocalypse event, wasn't it?
yeah,
We I think that was we were DEA at that one, so that must have been cartel, because we were having to bring prisoners back to the police station.
That's
as
right.
DEA.
yeah.
And then everyone we searched, we found drugs on. Even
Yeah,
the
incidentally,
prisoners that the
they
police
were-
had already searched, we kept finding drugs on
Yeah,
them.
we found those drugs, yeah. Sean in particular got very annoyed about all the drugs that were found on him all
He
the time. Oh, what's this I found? Little packet. He's, I didn't have that, you cheeky bastard. That's not mine. So here it is now.
Yeah. I mean, just to give some clarity to that, the rules of that event were that if you had grounds to detain someone,
Literally, what
you
Ryan's
could
just said
detain
there
them.
is literally what we had to do, mate. So you've hit the nail on the head there. Literally, they're
Yeah.
cards with intel that we had to ask certain questions to be able to extract that intel from them. Thank God they had cards on them, because none of them could remember what names they were, and
no.
oh, it's a
And
bloody
once,
nightmare.
I mean, wasn't it once that we got to a certain point of interrogation and questioning, and we'd like established, I think it was like 2 or 3 key facts about them. They
Yeah.
would be able to open up and just tell us everything they knew, basically.
That was it exactly, yeah. And we'd sort of then get to
and
place
then-
them in the triangle of like,
Yeah.
the who's in charge sort of thing.
Because
you
all
know.
the organisation structures, they'd set up their own organisation structure in terms of the hierarchy. So we were sort of trying to piece that together on the wall of the building with a Sharpie, like trying to, right, you sit here, so you're reporting to this person, and then, because they all kept forgetting their names, it was an absolute nightmare, because we were like, well, hang on, I've
all we
got
had to do, we
3
were just
guys
trying to get
called
the head of the snake,
El
weren't we? That's
Capo.
all we had to do. It was a nightmare. Boombox with an Aqua album playing for an hour, Barbie Girl on repeat. Absolutely, mate, yeah. I don't know if I'd still be dancing after that point, I reckon.
Yeah.
Giving it beans on the old dance floor.
Yeah. I mean, the in terms of the interrogation stuff, the rule set of some of the events is, you know, if you've got grounds to interrogate people, you can effectively keep them out of the game for an hour. That's why we were finding reasons as the DEA, because we were just convinced that everyone was corrupt, and it turns out they were. So that was perfectly
the worst one was
justified.
keeping someone in interrogation for an hour, and then letting them go, and then popping them in the back, and they had to go sit out for another half an hour. The Terminator go like, "You absolute bastard!"
But the interrogations and stuff like that can be quite a good fun element to the game. Obviously, there are limits as to when it stops being fun. And
That's why you do the whole vanilla thing, you know. You can just say, like, you vanilla, or you role playing, and they'll be like, "Oh, vanilla, here's the intel, blah, 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 I'm on my way." Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
You know, it's all good. It's all good.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on capturing enemy radio frequencies?
I'm a bit against it, if I'm honest. I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit bullshitty, because it's...
I think unless
Okay.
it's written into the storyline.
I get the whole jamming comms and things like that, but I mean, for me, it completely sort of like it can put an event on its knees if you've got that going on, and I've experienced it where it's just like you're trying to, especially from zero, if you've got like an overall event organizer, say for example, say I'm the overall organizer, Mike you're Op 4, Andy's Blue 4, and Op 4 are blocking Blue 4's comms, and Andy's trying to coordinate 5 sections that are out on the ground, and he can't because some douchebag's got a jammer going. So all these guys,
Well, jammers. To clarify, jammers are illegal in the UK, but
well, you know,
when
or
Mark's
whatever, or
referring to
disrupting
jammers,
comms.
it's people just play music or just talk randomly over the comms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
which
stuff
is
like that. So if they're
very annoying.
compromising frequencies or whatever it is, and then you'll get sections just coming back to the PB just saying, look, I've got no comms. This is happening. We're not hearing this, that, and the other. And then it's having to reset that. And all the while, lot 4 guys who are out on the ground are like, well, where the fuck is everybody? What's going on? You know, it creates more problems than it's worth. Do you know what I mean? And for the sake of the area that you're in, it doesn't take you long to find another section. Do you know what I mean? Or the opposing team. You know, they're not huge sites. You don't require to cock up other people's radio comms just for your own enjoyment, because at the end of the day, like we've said before, you know, it's to the detriment of other people's fun, and all you're doing is just pissing off loads of people because they can't communicate with each other or organise because their comms are completely shot to bits because you're prattling about with them. So yeah, from my point of view, I don't see any need for comms compromising to be going on or things like that, or people getting other people's frequencies. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's one of them, you know. From my personal
completely agree.
I think if you're listening in, I think that's not a like that could be.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? If someone's actually sort of like openly, I mean, if you're like sneaky, and you managed to listen in to an Op 4 or Blue 4 conversations going, yeah, well, my frequency is 543.251, and you can think, oh, well, sorry, mate, but let's have a listen in and see what's going on. That's different. That's their OPSEC being pants, and you're using an initiative. That's fair enough.
Yeah,
you know, because they you're not affecting their comms. You're just listening in to what's going on. That's different. I mean, I'm talking about people constantly clicking on or finding out a frequency, clicking it on like that, and just holding it on so they can't communicate or they can't do this, or they're just talking something randomly. That's when you're sort of jeopardising the gameplay. You know, if you've managed to secure their comms channel. I think there should be a time limit for how long you can do it for. You know, I think you should be genuinely honest about it. Say sort of like 5-10 minutes maybe of listening in, and then just sort of deleting it off or whatever it is. You know, or letting Zero know that we've compromised their comms.
We had that situation at Red Tide 1 where the comms were so close together that the frequencies were merging. So that wasn't an actively joining the comms, but I was picking up cartel comms,
taxi ranks, everything.
But I mean, what I started to do at a certain point was just start replying, and that was causing chaos, and that was
I remember that.
Quite entertaining.
Yeah, because was it
because they were like, "Oh,
Chris?
Steve,
is that
where
you,
are
Chris?
you?" And like,
or Steve or something? Yeah,
I'm here.
Yeah.
You was like, "Yeah, I'm here. I spoke to you like 5 minutes ago about it," and he was like,
"Yeah."
Spoke to me about what? I can't believe you've forgotten. He's like, what?
So I mean, at that point, they would. Because I mean, it took them about 10 minutes to slowly catch on that their comms were compromised, and at that point, you could hear, "Guys, our comms are compromised. Let's meet up and we'll switch them over."
Yeah,
and
guys, our comms are compromised, or Steve's being a tit. I don't know which one it is. Yeah, brilliant.
Right, I just want to add this. This is quite interesting. I didn't appreciate this. Ryan says that a tech playing music is still jamming. Or tech playing music, sorry, is still jamming. So if you've got a radio that's basically constantly on, I mean, I think it actually against Ofcom rules as well, whether you follow those or not.
But if you like jamming too, then it's not a problem, is it?
Exactly.
We're jamming. Bop jawah jawah. If someone started playing a bit of Bob down the old radio to me, I'd be quite happy with that. Especially if I've just come off like Stag or something, I can just get a brill on and just light up a big old bifter.
Yeah.
Not that I condone that, or can do it, because I get regularly drug tested, so I hope to be young again. And not work on the railway.
Yeah.
Because I'd be off my face.
Constantly.
Constantly. No, I wouldn't be. It's a silly thing to say.
Yes, I mean,
just play Bob.
Intelligence officers probably aren't. Intelligence officers probably aren't really much different from a normal loadout from any other thing. Any other role.
I just got what you said then, you dirty bastard. Mike, he's being filthy. Punish him for me.
I know. Well, used to it at this point.
Ooh.
Yeah.
One thing that is quite important with intelligence, and if you are gathering any intelligence, there's kind of certain things to remember to record. So, for example, the time at which the intelligence was gathered, who you got the information from, descriptions, and the like. Obviously, just returning to a base and going, oh yeah, I bumped into an op4. I interrogated him, and he said there's been an attack at 3 p.m. You're like, well, that's great. It's 4 p.m. now, so
winning.
Yeah. But I mean, intelligence, obviously, games and the like, MilSim events, they change on a minute by minute basis. You know, one little thing happening over on the site on the far left might be affecting the gameplay on the far right. So, you know, gathering intelligence is very important to ascertain some of the key facts, so that when you return that information, you know, your command structure has the ability to go, right, thank you for the intel, but that's out of date, because, you know, we know 5 minutes later we observed this happening. The mortar team that you're advising us that the attack's going to happen, we've actually already caught them. We know where they were from.
They've already been taken, dealt with.
Got that. So that's quite important. I'm just going to go through a couple of the comments before we finish on the Recce and Recon roles. Forgot my username. Said, counterpoint question: do you restrict specialists from doing certain things or carrying certain kit?
I don't think so, because first and foremost they'll just be a part of the section, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
All they'll be carrying is their own specialist kit and equipment on them.
They'd actually be having extra.
Well, yeah, they're going to have their normal sort of fighting order, as well as their kit that they're going to need for carrying out their role. Just from doing certain things or carrying certain kit. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be worried. They're going to have enough to worry about with their own equipment and kit, as opposed to carrying additional items. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I would say that the medic isn't going to go and breach a door. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So you are going to restrict not just specialists, but every player to doing a certain thing. So, like, some events say that only the medic can medic a person. So you're restricting them to one specific role.
Yeah. I mean, your standard rifleman within a section. There's nothing stopping him carrying an additional kit. Like, obviously, for like the LMG or the support gunner in the section, he'll be carrying extra link, things like that. He might be carrying a spare radio battery for the radio op. You know, perhaps some medical supplies. I don't know how it would work really, but they certainly would be carrying additional items just to spread the load between the section, rather than it all being lumbered on one person. And then everyone's got their own little bit of a role then, you know. Although you're a rifleman, it's like, well, I've got the spare ammo here for the LMG, so I need to sort of sit close to him, remember that, you know, spare batteries for the radio op. You're not going to be the medic
and also the spare.
Yeah, you're not going to be. If you're the medic, then you are the medic. It's like the LMG gunner. He would carry the LMG and very minimal else, just some water and maybe some spare link on him. He wouldn't certainly be carrying other items that he doesn't really need to carry, because he's got enough to worry about with a fucking great big machine gun hanging off of him.
Yeah.
You know, others would have belts of link split between them as well. So, yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's something that needs to be really developed and brought on in events and games and that, and it will get people looking at their kit more and things like that. Do you know what I mean?
I definitely think having roles within a MilSim is a level that should be looked into more by organisers, because as you said, it makes people specialise in a kit.
Yeah, 100%.
And specialise in that
hierarchy as well. Having a bit more hierarchy and kind of knowing where you kind of sit within the team, not from the perspective of, oh, I'm going to get bossed around a weekend, but you know that you've got a tasking to do. You know, you've got a TL. You know who to speak to in terms of, right, we've got something going on here, I need to talk to you, because that person's job is to then talk to that person, and you get that feedback situation. Whereas if you've got a group of players that are just turning up and be like, oh, I'll be the medic and the TL, you be the radio up and the LMG, or the support gunner, you know, it just becomes a bit of a mess, and you've got people that rock up to the event, they go, well, I can't be the support gunner, I've only got a shotgun. Like, you know, it's not going to work that way. That's
a good point. I mean, establishing what everyone's bringing prior to the event as well, so you don't all turn up there and you've got like 6 LMGs and only like 1 rifle and a DMR. It's just like, yeah, that's not going to work. You know, we're in an 8-man section, you know, 2 LMGs at most for the 2 fire teams. Do you know what I mean?
Right, I'm going to have to whisk through these because we've got 23 comments to get through. Kieran suggested, what about having a Padre, no weapon, the only kit being a day sack, a Bergen, full of Haribo for the purpose of morale.
That
would
cool.
be quite an interesting role.
Yeah, that'd be cool, yeah.
Especially
maybe
if
you could almost shoe that horn in with as a photographer sort of thing, couldn't you? That could be quite cool. That's something I'd like to see. It'd be like, you know, like
Padre, get down! Stop taking pictures.
No, but you know, like a news reporter, like actually being embedded with a team sort of thing, and actually having to record a a sort of like docu-series sort of thing whilst out on the ground at an event. That would be quite cool. Awesome. Just to see how they get, like, you'd have like the reporter, like almost like a Ross Kempley type thing. He's got him and a cameraman following a team around. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's another good way as well of documenting that event.
Especially for the organizer, for future
having a photographer running around in a high vis vest. You know, it's a little bit counterintuitive sometimes. Having someone embedded that's, you know, they're in a flak jacket and a hard hat, a tactical hat or ballistic helmet. It's gonna not take away from that immersion.
No, exactly that.
So, Rage says, I'm just going to point out that the way the British Army first got us to look for IEDs was to send one or two of us to walk down the road looking for them.
That's not surprising.
Walk down the road looking for them.
Fucking mental, isn't it?
I can't remember who said it, and I apologise because I've lost the comment, but I think somebody said it's called an ablative patrol.
An ablative patrol, bloody hell.
I can understand that. SEO says we send out training considerations in advance of events to give people a chance to prep properly. It works
certainly
to defend
do,
someone
chaps.
while carrying out SSE or whatever.
Yep, 100%.
So
I can vouch for that.
Rage was asking what I dress up as. He says, I can see you dressing up like a milkmaid for those Coles nights with Andy. I don't have a milkmaid costume, although I do have an Admiral's hat now.
Let's be honest, Mike, come on.
Coming out in the next few weeks. I don't have a milkmaid outfit. If anyone wants to provide a milkmaid outfit, I would probably wear a milkmaid outfit. I like dressing up. I like role play. I like live action role play.
God,
you're a saucy minx. You
do. I dress up, and my name's Susan.
I prefer sherry at the weekend.
Yeah. Well, I'll drop sherry.
Sorry, forgot my username just said, and then BB started flying, so I ran like a little girl regarding the Ross Kent comment.
RPG!
James C on the use of Valens, they're a bloody nightmare to use, though. You need to get them set up properly and understand the sound it makes. Completely agree with that. Yep. For those that have ever played with a Valen, it's very annoying initially until you've got a bit more of an idea. Not having all the kit on the front of your plate carrier makes spending hours in the prone more comfortable. So, yeah,
I've pulled mine right back.
Stephen Whitehead said, well dramatic if you have a smoky pyro that shoots polystyrene rocks and dirt everywhere. That would be wicked as well. If you've got the kit to set up actual explosions in the street with, you know, the kind of the film effects and the SFX that they've kind of got.
Oh, mate, yeah.
Got an explosion is I mean, imagine you've got like a car bomb go off under like a car that you've got set up. They're obviously not going to blow up a real car, but if you've got the ability to kind of throw shit out from underneath the car,
the smoke machine sort of thing, wicked, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Like them foam bricks, wasn't it? Like the foam bricks that Big Mike was talking about. Like being like air pressure, air canister, just to blast them out from under the vehicle or something. That could be quite cool.
A lot of them. That's what we used to use at Warner Brothers. Literally, you had two big compressed air tanks, and when they press the button, it's all digitally done, and you've just got airlines just blowing crap out in every direction.
It's impressive.
And that wouldn't be too hard for people to do themselves either, really.
No.
Think about it. I mean, from a health and safety perspective, you'd
already have the
really
iPro on and that. So
yeah,
you know.
I mean, I don't know. I foresee that working well. Let's say you've got like a village or market set up, and you've got an IED go off, and you potentially got an EOD team having to come in, check for other IEDs. You know, potentially if the EOD team do a shit job, you get other IEDs going off. You know, you've got having a patrol having to secure the perimeter. You've got Op4 trying to get involved, and you know you're not sure who's the trigger man for that IED. You know, there's a lot of potential things that you can have going on that would replicate a lot of realistic scenarios. I'm getting quite excited about the concept. I won't lie. You're on mute, Lance.
I was just going, ooh, I say. He's getting excited.
I know, I could tell. I just couldn't hear you. Anthony's Airsoft said, I can only imagine it's probably better off to have no armour on to stop you sweating, because I doubt it will save your life if an IED did go off.
Well, no, we had that one.
I don't know. I mean,
didn't we? Where the American one was designed to just keep you together in an explosion, so they had something to take away, which is a sombering thought.
Yeah.
I know that's why the blast pants were popular, because I know that people were worried about obviously losing access to their genitals, because ultimately that is, you know, not being able to walk is very challenging, but I think there's an element of manhood and stuff like that. I mean, I don't want to kind of get into an alpha like, yeah, you know, I don't want to lose my genitals.
Yeah, but it's their, you know, it's the organ, isn't it?
Yeah,
that you don't want to lose.
Yeah,
you know.
When we were talking about Mortar Teams, forgot my username, said not sure I'd want to go to an airsoft event looking to put a brick wall together, and it made me chuckle. So I just want to bring that one up. James says a guy at my local site had to carry a bag full of Mark 5s during the games. That was really frustrating.
Wow. It's like, oh god.
Anthony's Airsoft says at the last frontline events, at one point the medics had to take the injured to a CCP, and they were then taken back to HQ via a Willis Jeep, and they could only then respawn.
Brilliant.
Quite a cool
I love that.
I'd just be getting constantly shot to go on the Willis Jeep all the time, because I think they are the best.
Take me home.
I'm not going to get through all of these quickly. Stephen Whitehead was talking about a boombox with the Aqua album, and then forgot my username pointed out that's probably covered by the Geneva Convention 3 article, paragraph 4. Terry was talking about having a NoFo black site.
Yeah, that's Mike's house.
Right, we're not going to get through all the rest of the comments because I really want to talk about the Recce and Recon role. So let's just cover that quickly. Do you want to cover that as a separate episode, actually?
Yeah,
we can do.
What do you think?
Yeah,
I think it's quite, because I think that I think is going to bring in, like, it's almost like from Recce, Sniper, DMR. There's quite a bit to go through in that, and I don't want to rush it.
See, I was thinking
your camouflage concealment
as a separate role, but it makes perfect sense to bring that. So let's bring all that together at a later date, and we can run through the rest of the comments.
Bring it to the party.
I like it. I like a holistic approach.
And there you go. And guys, you've just witnessed how a cob works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our conferences are bullshit.
So we do this. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
Good plan. Yeah.
Good plan.
Well done.
Good plan. Double thumbs up. Good plan.
Oh.
I mean, the spinach.
Ryan says the only way to do it. So this was in terms of potentially causing chaos over comms. The only way to do it is if you had many frequencies, so that if one is compromised, then you have to realise and then move to another frequency. So it would obviously work with smaller teams, smaller events. Potentially, you know, if you've got the capability that you could switch frequencies. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's a bit of a pain. John says you can have a preset of frequencies for each team, then you can't see the numbers and stuff. That would stop it. Then you have to have the right offsets and stuff to fully hear what's going on. So obviously, you could look at CTCSS, RTCCSS. You know, that obviously causes chaos in terms of programming radios, but it's quite useful for stopping anyone from necessarily just finding the frequency. Stephen Whitehead said, don't know if a tag would arm at its terminal velocity. So I don't know a lot about tag rounds myself. You're on mute again, Lance.
Hell. I don't know if it's a percussion cap typed thing where it's like the nose cone of the tag round that impacts.
They do an impact
detonates.
But then they also do one that's, I think it's.
I know there's one that's on a timer, isn't it? Once it's fired, you've got like a 4 or 5 second timer on it or whatever it could be. But yeah, that would be even just the Nerf dart thing, just to drop down and you just think, oh shit, I've been done. Got done by a drone. That would be cool.
Who's getting rained on?
It's absolutely tipping down tonight.
You can hear it.
It is literally. The rain today down my way has been absolutely awful.
Hey,
I've got to go
it's
out
British
in it
summertime, didn't you know?
Hey, there's me thinking we're still in the middle of winter.
I know.
All the bright sunshine we're having. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to work tonight, mate. That's going to be awful.
Terry solution.
Underground?
No, I'm outside. Funny enough, more of the underground is outdoors than it is in tunnels.
Yeah.
It's only a very small part of the underground which is actually underground. The rest of it's all out. There's more track outside than there is in tunnels, which is ridiculous. It should all be tunnelled and dry and warm and lovely.
Terry's solution to interrogation is a cage, a yard broom, and a fire hose.
Kinky, I like it.
Lovely.
Kenny says, crumbs, Terry, my safe word is pineapple. Ryan says, you split the stuff across a section. A GPMG gunner can't carry 2000 link. He has a number 2. The Radop will split 4 batteries with someone else. So I mean, this is where you're obviously talking about buddy systems. I mean, you look at the number of airsoft events that people go to, where how many jet boils are you likely to see in a team? So you've got a team of 10, you're going to have 10 jet boils or 10 cook systems. You're going to have 10 bashers, 10 sleeping bags, 10 pretty much fucking everything, and that's
Depends
why
on
everyone
what the
turns
team
up to
is.
a MilSim event in a fucking massive bag.
Well, this is it exactly. Yeah, I mean, like sort of that sort of recce role sort of thing. If it was like a 4-man team, technically we could get away with 2 sleeping bags because you'd have 2 on, 2 off. You'd have 2 bashers. You could easily get 4 guys under the 2 bashers. That's it. You just like I said, buddy system. 2 cook sets.
Yeah.
All those things to consider.
But then again, it can be a little bit weird if you're put into a section
With a dude you don't know.
Yeah.
So you're not getting my sleeping bag. It's my sleeping
Yeah. But if you
smell.
What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. If you've gone
Get
as a
out.
lone wolf when you've gone and you don't know a single person, you kind of turn up and you walk into this room and there's like 20 guys that you don't know and you're like, can I use your basher, please?
Yeah.
Because I didn't bring one because I got told I'd have a buddy.
Yeah, I'm screwed now. My
Yeah.
buddy hasn't arrived and he's bringing all the shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where
Welcome along, Daz.
potentially if you've got a recce going on where you might have a tent set up, because I mean you do get sort of situations where you can bug back to a tent and you've got like an actual sort of hard base effectively that you're operating out of, and then your OPs or layup positions you've got kind of set up a little bit further away. That's where having a tent between potentially 4 to 6 people would be quite useful, because if you've got a 2-man tent where 2 people can go get their head down in there for a bit,
Yeah.
you're offsetting that
definitely,
weight, because whilst a tent is a much bigger piece of kit, you're potentially looking at maybe sort of 3-4 kilos for a tent. Potentially that's going to be split across the team, so you're not actually having to kind of carry that extra weight. It's actually potentially reducing it, because you're not having to take 6 bashers, for example.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I know bashers aren't particularly weighty, but as soon as you've got poles and paracord and ropes and bungees and stuff on top of that as well, you will be looking
It's
at
also,
a
it's
greater
all
amount of
more.
weight.
It's just other little bits of kit to sort out and sort through, innit? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What you need is like a modified bivvy bag that you can just self-contain in.
You do. But even that, again, I mean, because when we're talking about going wild camping,
I'm
talking about going wild
self-quarantining
camping.
because my specialism.
We're talking about going wild camping this year, and there was a discussion in the chat about whether we, because we previously taken Vango Banshee 300s, which are kind of a lightweight trekking tent. They weigh 2.8 kilos, but there was chat about let's not take a tent. Let's go with a bivvy bag set up and a tarp over the top. But when you actually start to look at the weight of the 2 bivvy bag setups, the tarp, the poles for the tarp and everything like that, actually works out to be potentially just as much as the tent. And the tent's going to give you greater cover from the elements. It's going to give you that kind of surety. You're not, if it does rain, you're not having to sit in your bivvy bag on your own. You can actually kind of sit together. You've got the ability to kind of sit up a little bit more. So there's definitely a trade-off between sharing kit and then having these individual systems. You're on
mute.
I'm not even doing it this time.
It's not me, I promise.
Someone said the T word in the chat. I don't know if you're aware.
Ah!
Oh, and above. And Daz said it as well.
Oh my goodness.
Tranja.
There we go. Tranja, the Chandra growl.
Just on that note, if anybody would like to submit their own audio voice clip for consideration to be included on the show, please feel free to do so. And you can email it as
What have you
email at
just
nofochat@hotmail.com. Our Instagram, you can send it on there at nofo_foxtrot, November_foxtrot_nofo, or you can submit it, I think, on our website at novemberfoxtrot.co.uk. or on Facebook or anything like that. Send it in, because I would love to hear what people send us as little voice notes or clips that we could include on the show.
You can deal with all this nuttery.
Maybe reference the lingo bingo and send us in your choice of word, either shouted or whispered.
Shouted, whispered.
I'll tell you what. People people submit them in, and then what we'll do is the ones that we like we'll use on the show, and then at the end of the year, what we'll do is we'll have a little review of all the ones that we've received, and we'll pick our favourite, and we'll have a little prize.
We should do an advent calendar of the sounds through December. We'll do a sound calendar
on the first day of Christmas. My true love gave to me.
That's it. That's Christmas sorted, boys.
Yeah,
absolutely sorted.
There you go. So send them in because it'll be hilarious. And the more creative you can be, try to keep it to sort of 2 or 3 seconds. We don't need a whole minute of you
waffling on,
parading us with all sorts of gumph. But yeah, it'd be cool. Stephen Whitehead suggested interrogation cards, and this was something I was hoping I could find. I do. There we go. So for one of the DEA events we did, I'll make myself just temporarily bigger.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh, no.
Stranger in a pear tree. Exactly.
That's not going to come out. No. Right. Okay. I'm very sorry. This was basically a little crib sheet that allowed people to just, we had a couple people that were interrogators. They had a copy of this, and it was just a little crib sheet to help remind you of what to ask or ascertain information-wise. It was laminated with the ability that you could obviously write on that and then wipe it off afterwards, so you don't have to have separate bits of paper. You've got all the information there, and it covers things like the name, the time of interview, their age, location of residence, who do they report to, and it's trying to ascertain a bit of a crib sheet so that you don't forget. So when you're excited, you've captured someone. You're not just going, oh yeah, well I've got him. Oh shit, what was I meant to remember to ask? What's your favourite fruit? Like it's you want relevant information. So interrogation cards are really useful for that.
No, that's cool. I like that. What event was that you got them from? Or did you make them?
That was I made these. This was for Red Tide 1.
You clever old stick.
Yeah, I know. I don't think we ever used them, but
we never.
It's a handy point. Handy point of
reference. To get the laminator out. I love laminating stuff.
I love
a laminator.
I'm considering getting myself a sewing machine. I am. I'm considering
that. Yeah.
You
know what I want to get? I want to get a an ID card printer. So the little like plastic credit card type things.
Yeah.
Your own ID cards. I really want to get that because I've got obviously the templates and stuff. We've made ID cards in the past.
That's right. Yeah. We used to do NoFo club cards.
We could do NoFo club cards
with a QR code now. That'd be quite cool.
This gets me discounts at the.
Yeah.
Oh yes. At nothing. Nowhere. No.
Ryan said it would.
You could flash it. You could flash it at the stores that we promote through via the site and that. I'm sure if you flashed your NoFo card, it'll give you your discount. Oi.
Just flash your card. Flash your card. Sorry, what were you saying, Andy?
I was just saying it just proves that you've got nothing to do on a Wednesday night. That's all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey guys, I sit and watch the podcast. Ryan says it would be nice to see sections sit inside platoons with a platoon commander, for example, rather than sections to the DS lead.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've had this conversation before, and I've definitely mentioned it. That the thing I always find very frustrating about some events is because the event is planned, and the events are planned for a certain reason, because usually the event organisers want to achieve a certain outcome, or they've got set pieces that they need to plan. You can't just expect a car bomb to go off because the organisers need to make that happen. So if there's a series of events that they need to get to that point, they're going to want to do that because ultimately they've invested the time and the energy to make that car bomb. But I do find sometimes it's very like, oh right, so we're getting command structure to go and attack that point there. It's like, right, so there's definitely going to be people there, or we're going to get ambushed on the way. It's going to happen. And I think that is when you get this kind of issue with people like, right, okay, let's think outside the box. Let's not go that way. Let's send 2 people that way, and let's send the rest of the team around the back of the map where something else is being set up over there, and it's going to cause chaos and ruin the game. So, but I do like it when you've got that.
That element of freedom.
Yeah.
Or putting the onus on actual having a section commander or platoon commander as a player rather than member of the staff. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, because you can still have it that player's got a little bit more integral knowledge, You know, but
I think they'd need
maybe
to.
have to
I think for
about
it to
a
work,
little
they'd
bit more.
need to. Do you know what I mean? And they could always, liaise with the DS teams and things like that. If they've got problems.
Terry says that there is interrogation cards now on eBay for £1 with postage and packing £10.
Oh, blimey. Okay. Worth a look.
Yeah. Last couple of comments. Dale says, mate, I never know what I'm doing halfway through. I'm just always figuring out if the tree in the distance is a person or not. So, well done, Dale.
As you do now. Nice
And then
Trangia.
for Daz, I get a BCB with a Trangia.
Good lad. Absolutely
There you
should.
go. Right, I think that's probably covered all the comments and bits and pieces off. If anyone wants to get in touch with the show, you can do so on our email at nofochat@hotmail.com. Our Instagram is at November_Foxtrot_NoFo. And you can also find us on our website of NovemberFoxtrot.co.uk. We do have a Twitter account if you really want to find us on there. We have now, for your information, logged a report against the other account.
God damn them.
Copying us.
Bastards.
I haven't sent them bum pics because apparently that breaches Twitter's terms and conditions. So I didn't want us to lose our account or our moral high ground.
I just like the way that they were on Twitter before us. We've gone onto Twitter and gone, oh yeah, that's not us, and they're like,
Using our branding.
yeah,
They were on Twitter using our branding, to clarify.
Cheeky sods.
I know, absolute bastards.
frustrating.
Next week, we're going to be having a Red Tide 3 short debrief, where we'll be discussing the Defiant
Hosted
event
by
this
yours
weekend.
truly.
It'll be hosted by Lance, so
Hello.
Lance will be unfortunately unable to make the event this weekend due to various personal circumstances, but which is a real shame because we're going to miss him. I know Andy and I are both particularly gutted that he can't make it, but I know there's a lot of other people that will miss him as well. However, we'll be having fun. Lance will be heading up the conversation because he'll be asking us about Red Tide, and then we're also going to be joined by Silly Gilly, aka Ed, who will be on the show, and we'll be discussing the kind of the role of
Celebrity on the
snipers in MilSim.
show.
We're going to have a celebrity. It's going to be amazing. Proper celebrity. So join us next week, Wednesday at 8 p.m. In the meantime,
He's gonna hate. No, listen. Celebrity. Magic cup.
You got to put it
Magic
back in there
cup. Oh, you can tell I've had a big coffee.
yeah, he'll be running around in a bit.
No, it'd take a lot of coffee for that to happen. I'd have to be on fire to run around.
in the meantime, have a good week. Who had the closing remarks this week? I've forgotten.
I did it last week,
It's
and I
you.
did it rather well, I think.
Oh, was it me? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I get to speak longer.
On that note, goodbye.
No, you've got to do it. You can't not do it. No.
Okay, so closing remarks. Airsofters are basically people that love running around in the woods and playing with their balls. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Stay NoFo.
Stay NoFo, ciao Bella.
Ciao! I finally get to eat this Chinese roll. It's tasty.